Hi, my name's Michelle and let me take you on the journey of turning this old dresser I bought off Facebook Marketplace into something modern and beautiful and fresh. The first thing I did was take out all the old hardware because I knew I wanted to replace it with something new. One thing I like to do when I'm taking the drawers out is on the bottom, I'll just say that it was the top left drawer. So you can have a look there. I've just done a little TL for top left, and I'll do my bottom left, and I'll also do my middle left. And what that does, that just helps me put them back in the right places, because I find sometimes, especially with older pieces of furniture, drawers don't fit in all the holes. So if I mark where I take them out of, it makes it much easier to put them back in later. Haha, got him. That one gave me a bit of a run for my money. Okay, now that I've got the hardware out, I'm going to go in and give everything a really good clean. I'm just going to go in with, I've got Krud Kutter today, which is a heavy duty cleaner and disinfectant. So I'll give that everything a wash down. Alright, so we're all done, and now I'm going to get rid of that gross icky water that we cleaned all of those with and go over everything with fresh clean water. That's to wipe off any remnants of the cleaner that I used, and why we clean is so that we have a nice clean surface for the paint to seep to. Because if you've got oils and grease or just all the little bits from life on there, sometimes it makes it really hard for the paint to stick to it. So that's why we give it a really good clean. I filled all the old hardware holes with Elmer's wood filler, as the new hardware I was going to be using had different dimensions. And when you're filling hardware holes, it's important to overfill it with wood filler, as it dries, it condenses. So if you don't overfill it, sometimes you have to go back in and do a second coat in order for it to be fully filled. Once the wood filler was dry, I went in with my mouse hand sander and sanded down all of that wood filler. I blew away the sanding dust with my leaf blower and wiped all the drawers down with a damp cloth to make sure all the dust was gone. Next, I went in with some painter's tape attached to plastic sheeting in order to protect my drawers while I sprayed them with my spray gun. And this definitely gave me a bit of a run for my money as I tried to put it on. Next, it was time to get ready to paint, so I laid out my drop sheet. I chose to use Zinsser's Shellac based fin primer. So not only is it great for adhesion and getting the paint to stick to the furniture, but it's also really good at blocking stains. And I had sanded through to the bare wood on some of the drawers, so I wanted to make sure none of the wood tannins popped through. I used the spray can version on the drawers because it was the easiest to get me into all those little details around the edges. Meanwhile, on the base of the dresser, I gave it a really good scuff sand, which is just a really light sand, usually with 220 grit sandpaper, in order to very lightly rough up the surface so that the paint has something to adhere and stick to. I used the same primer that I did on the drawers on the base, just from a paint can. And I like to line my paint tray with some aluminium foil for easy cleanup, because this primer is tricky to clean up, which is why I don't use it in my paint sprayer. Once the primer was dry, I gave the base a light sand just to make sure that the paint would have a nice smooth surface to adhere to. I like to line my paint sprayer with a plastic liner. It's not necessary, but it just helps for a nice, easy cleanup later. I strain my paint through a strainer, and this is really important because you don't want any lumps or bumps getting into your sprayer, as it can lead to clogging up your sprayer or an uneven finish later. I chose to use Dutch Boy's cabinet door and trim paint, and this paint needed a really good stir as I had had it sitting for a while. Before I put on my first coat of paint, I wiped down the base of the dresser just to make sure there were no little dust particles left behind. I test out my sprayer on a piece of cardboard first, just to make sure I've got the right flow going on and it's going to go on smoothly to the dresser. I put on 2 coats of paint, and then it was time to top coat. I used Minwax Polycrylic in a satin finish. Once the top coat was dry, it was time to drill my holes for the new hardware, and yes, that was me just drawing a straight line with my aluminium foil container. Use what you've got. Now, if you put painter's tape down and then drill, you're less likely to get chipping of the paint. Or you could make these holes before you paint. I just was not that organized this time. Here's a reminder of what the dresser looked like before we started. And here's what it looked like afterwards. If you've enjoyed this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing below. It really helps me out in making more of these videos. If you liked this dresser makeover, you might like some of my other dresser makeovers in the playlist here.